Holistic by Shiana.
Hi, it's Shiana. Welcome to Who You Callin' Holistic. Today I am joined with a very special guest. I've talked about her already a bunch on this show, so I'll introduce her in a moment. But first things first, make sure you subscribe to my Patreon. Shout out to Neek at GOT Sound Studio. That's where I'm recording today. And what else? If you haven't subscribed to my email list yet, make sure you do that, where you will receive all the updates going on of the events I'm having, classes, courses, all the things that I have going on. This week, I have a Salt Cave event that's already sold out. So make sure you get on that list so you know what's happening and you can make the next one. And without further ado, welcome, Amanda.
Hello.
So why are you sounding all shy on here?
I don't know why.
Okay.
I think I'm a little nervous.
Are you? That's fine. Just pretend you're talking to yourself like I talk to myself in here. But you're actually having a conversation with me.
Yeah.
So it's just like us on the green couch.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
All right. And again, a lot of people don't even watch this on YouTube. So if that's the issue, that you're concerned with the camera, just forget it's there.
Yeah.
I forget. Mm-hmm. You have to. But anyway, I wanted to get into, first of all, how we met.
Yeah.
Because I like to kind of, like, if I've known of the person before I bring them on the show, I like to give, a little backstory. Mm-hmm. So I was on allegedly a date, I guess, kind of.
Was it a date?
Right, exactly. See? I was out with this man that knows Amanda, and he told me that Amanda's good people, and I was like, looking forward to meeting Amanda, and I was like, let me make sure I bring my gummies. So I brought gummies, and then I was like, hey, and I just met you, like, hey, you want a gummy? You were like, yeah, I like gummies.
Yeah.
And we've been cool since.
Ever since.
So that was, I guess, early last year sometime, I think, or late. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what time
it's been a while.
It's been over a year, though.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yay.
Yeah.
And then after that, you came to my 70s birthday party. Mm-hmm. You have actively been listening to my podcast. Shout out to you for that.
Yes.
So you've been very, very supportive in all the ways. And there's some quote that I remember thinking, I need to look this up, but I'm going to paraphrase it because that's what I know best for it. But there's some quote that I've seen that says something along the lines of time doesn't really matter when it comes to meeting different people in your life, because you can have just met somebody new, air quote new. You could have just met somebody today that has way better intentions for you than people you've known for years. And that's something I appreciate with you, because yes, we just met last year, but you are a prime example of how much community matters for people, and just to be able to pour into each other. Because you've supported some of my services. I've supported your services. I've gotten you some clients. So it's that ecosystem of feeding into each other, and let me share what I can with you that I know, and you share with me what you know. And it's it's a good space to be in.
Yeah, I really appreciate you for that, especially because none of my close friends live in Columbia. So it's been, really important for me just to have somebody that I can relate to,
Yes, so I do appreciate you. And if you guys have been listening, often enough, I've shouted out Chef Amanda on here many times because she's feeding me, and we need me fed, because I can go on without feeding myself if I need to, but it makes a difference. And I tell people all the time whenever I'm referring your work, we can say your work, I'm like, she has actual soul food.
Yeah.
Because you enjoy what you do.
Very much so.
And that makes a difference. So for people getting fast food and stuff, you don't know what mood they're in when they're preparing your meals. So
usually not a good one.
Right. Right. So energetically, that's what you're ingesting. So is there any fast food restaurants that you do say are you make an exception to go and have food in?
I'll get fries from Chick-fil-A. I'm not really big on fast food like that anymore.
I figured.
If I had to pick a place that I go to often, it'd be Panera.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's probably the best fast food place I could think of.
The safest one.
Yeah.
And you're one of my friends too, who shares your not ideas, your opinions on. I won't even say opinions. You just kind of put up a little video to say, hey, look what's going on. And you're big into conspiracy theory things sometimes too, which usually are true anyway. So how has that been with the role you have now?
Oh, it's been a journey, because just thinking about conspiracy theories, what kind of brought me to that is when I decided I was going to go vegan. So I feel like once you decide to go vegan, it's like, then it really uncovers a lot of things just about food, and then not just about food, just a lot of issues surrounding food, especially when it comes to, Black people, food deserts, not having, good things to eat. So just learning about a lot of those things. So it really opened my eyes to how much our food has been manipulated. So, and I'm trying my best to try to manipulate the food and buy the best food that I can to feed myself. And, that's a conspiracy in itself. Just going to the grocery store, reading labels, you're like, what is that? You can't pronounce it. You don't know what it is. So what do you think it could be doing to your body?
Right. Right. And I've spoken on here before about my beliefs in like how to feed yourself. And I don't believe everybody should be vegan. I very much believe in like intuitive eating. Yeah. But I've found like those who are typically vegan are very much like, you got to be vegan. You have to do that to survive here and like to be healthy. Are you one of those like full blown, you got to be vegan, this is the only way to live? No,
and I feel like at the beginning of my journey, I think because I was learning so much information, it's like you kind of want to stay away from everything. And then now I categorize myself more as plant-based. Okay. So I'm about maybe 85% plant-based. I don't deny myself eating meat sometimes, dairy, different things like that. I just pick and choose when I want to eat those things.
And it's probably like the best of the best kind of meat.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I'm feeding myself the best way I can. But as far as vegan, I actually got to the point where I really don't even like that term that much, because I feel like it puts you so much in a box when it comes to food, and I don't really like being in that kind of place.
Understandable. So what is, if you do have a day that you're like, I feel like eating some meat today, what are some of the things that you look out for when you're picking out meat, quality meat?
Honestly, I try to do grass-fed or go to like a meat market. Try to go to the better grocery stores like we have around here, like, Fresh Market or Earth Fare. Places that really focus on having the best quality meat. But even with meat nowadays, it's even hard to find good quality meat unless you're like in a large city, where they have butcher shops and stuff like that. And down here it's kind of hard, which is even more reason why I don't really eat that much meat, because you can't really find the best quality,
I remember when I was in college for the couple years I was there, I was in a business communications class. I think that was the course that we had this project. And we had to go around, and this was in Charleston, and we had to go around to different grocery stores to see what was available. And the more, well-off areas like Mount Pleasant or Isle of Palms, the people with more money, it was like, I remember the questions were very much like, what kind of grocery stores are available? And then like, go to the meat section. What meats do they have to offer? And then go to like, somewhere deep in North Charleston. Yeah. And it's like, and what grocery stores are available there? And what meats do they have there? And like the meat choices at the...
Drastically different.
And I was like, these are the things that I refuse to eat even. Like, I'm not going to, I don't want that. I don't want my house smelling like that. Like, I don't care how it's prepared. I'm not going to eat that. And it's like, why isn't this offered at the other location?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because even when I'm doing like my private chef gigs and I travel a lot, and sometimes I end up shopping where I'm at. So, or, I might have to stop and get like one thing. But you go in the grocery store, it's like, wow, they don't have none of this stuff where I'm at. And it's just ridiculous, because it's like, it's all the same food. It's just better quality, or, more variety of fruits and vegetables, different things like that. So, yeah, I think as a chef, we know too much about food sometimes. And even, when we order stuff from like large vendors, it's just so many different levels of different things. It's like, okay, you can buy a ribeye, but it's different levels to it. It's different grades,
Right.
different qualities, different or origins, all these different things that come into play. And unless you're in that world, you have no idea.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I was even like, let me just ask her some questions like, what are people looking for in good quality things? Because if you haven't been shown, you don't know what to look out for.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful I have friends in my life like you and even Brooke who knows the things that, point these things out. Like, this is what you need to be doing for a better quality meal, for a better quality energy exchange, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I'm grateful that people like this are in my life, because if you don't know better, you can't do better.
Yeah.
So what was the food dynamic for you growing up? Like, I know for my family, me and my siblings are like 6 and 8 years apart. So my mom used to cook all the time. But then by the time they were leaving the house, it was like, oh, well, like, you're good. Like, you can take care of yourself. Like, I've done this long enough, but like, you can fix something, you can find something kind of thing. But there wasn't like a one-on-one, let me show you some meals to do. Like, sprinkled in here and there, like, oh, I can show you how to do this quick dinner, but like, it wasn't, I feel like, and my mom's white, but people say she's fake white because she's British. But like, it wasn't like she couldn't cook. But I often wondered if like I had a black mom, if the teaching dynamic would have been different. So did your mom or your parents grow up cooking for all of you the whole time?
My mom she cooked a lot. My nana cooked a lot. I was at her house a lot. So I got it from both ends, from both of them. So I can't really say that my mom really like showed me anything to cook, or even my nana really showed me like, okay, this is how you make this dish or whatever. I just think I just saw them do it so much that it's just something I just picked up on, because honestly, I can't even remember when I even started cooking.
Right.
So when people are like, well, how long you been cooking? I was like, I don't know.
Right.
It's just something I just started doing, I mean, kind of like you said, fend for yourself. Well, my parents would do that sometimes, because both of my parents worked. So sometimes me and my sister would be at home by ourselves after school or whatever. We had to figure out something to eat, Yeah, they would leave stuff where we could heat up, like Hot Pockets, that normal kind of thing. But as I got older, I want to say maybe by middle school, I was full blown cooking, because I was baking then. I was selling.
Gourmet chef by middle school already?
Not gourmet chef, but I was selling cakes. I was selling cakes to people. My mom used to make cakes a lot, so if somebody wanted her to make a cake or something, or my granddaddy would buy cakes sometimes for me to give as gifts for people. So my mom was like, well, since you know how to do it now, I don't have to do it. You can just make it for everybody. So. But I don't really bake that much anymore. But
you like, again, I feel like because of that whole, like you just said earlier, like you don't want to be boxed in. I feel like baking, there's not strict instructions, but there's a foundation. There's something that you have to follow.
Yeah, so you got to have the right ratios for things,
and you
weigh
barely
things.
measure things. You're just like, a splash of this. And I'm like, give me the structure, please. Like, don't make it too difficult, because like it's not going to get done. With all those extra steps, it's not happening. And you're like, give me all the steps. And if I mess up a step, I got a way to correct it. So those things weren't like taught to me growing up. Like, if you do too much of this, add this thing. So did you learn that growing up, or was that more from being in culinary school?
I've been watching Food Network since the network started. So I grew up watching like Iron Chef when they were speaking Japanese or whatever language they were speaking. I couldn't understand anything they were saying, but I knew what they were doing. So I've always paid attention to how people cook. Even now, like, I know most chefs still watch cooking shows, because it's like it's impossible to know everything.
Right.
And sometimes you're like, what, I never thought about that. I never thought about putting those two things together, or, just a lot of different things, just learning about new ingredients sometimes, but I learned a lot of that from Food Network. My mom and my grandma had a lot of cookbooks. So I would, go through the cookbooks, find recipes I liked, and I would try them out on my family.
See, and now you're making me think, like, what was I watching all the time that had an influence now? Because it was, I had no interest in Food Network at all. And I know a lot of people that are into it, but they're also, they love cooking things, you know, like, or they're foodies even. But so then I was like, well, what was I watching a lot of? And now I'm gonna have to think about that some more. Because I'm like, Oprah, growing up, obviously, but like not forever. So to see how that had an influence on things. Anyway, was being a chef what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I think by the time I got to high school, I knew I wanted to be a chef, but I was also a musician too.
Okay.
So
what instrument did you play?
My principal instrument was clarinet, but I also played tenor sax and French horn.
Okay.
So when I graduated, before I even graduated, I wanted to do both. And I was trying to find a school where I could do both. But I had no idea how much time went into both of them. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to pick one. But for sure, by the time I got to high school, I knew that I wanted to be a chef. Okay.
And then what kind of chef are you? I don't know. I guess there's different styles of...
Yeah, right now I consider myself a private chef, where I, basically cater to certain clients for certain things. So like I do meal prep. I kind of count that outside of the private chef thing or whatever, because with private chef, I'm cooking for people, multiple course meals, in their home or wherever they, having parties, different things like that, celebrations, usually smaller groups of people, usually like 20 people or less. So I consider myself more of a private chef. Personal chef is more like you're cooking for somebody on a regular basis, like a family or something like that.
Okay. As you're saying this, I was thinking yesterday when we were having a conversation, some of the things I've been manifesting over the years, and not to say like I ain't got it like that today, like I ain't got it like that, but in your mind, when you hear about different careers and what people can do, the services they offer, you hear chef and it's like, oh, that's expensive. And I remember thinking before, because the food part of my life was such like not like a trigger, but it was the thing that I was having the hardest time like healing or building a stronger relationship with.
Got you.
And then I remember thinking just like, people like Oprah got chefs. Like, I can't wait to have a chef in my life. And then I was like,
here I am.
Look at God. Look at God. What can people expect when hiring a private chef for an event?
Usually, when you hire me, I can't speak for others.
Yes, what can people expect when hiring you?
When you hire me as a chef, you can look forward to meals with a lot of flavor. I like to cook very, different cultures. I love to cook Middle Eastern food, Asian types dishes. I love Mediterranean food, Italian food. So I really like more international flavors. But, when hiring a chef like me, you're going to get a lot of flavor on the plate, beautiful presentation. I put some effort into, decorating the space. So, nice centerpiece for the table. I also do mocktails or cocktails as an addition to the meal. So it's just a really good way to celebrate, to show off for your friends or your family. It's something I really enjoy doing because it's like I get to be a part of people's celebrations a lot of times. And, these are important things. A lot of times it's people who haven't seen each other in like years. And, I get to be a part of that memory with them. So, I get to do the nice menus, it's about the wow factor. Yeah. Really, it is. So people are always shocked. They're like, I didn't know. Or a lot of times it's a surprise, honestly, most of the ones that I do. But
yeah, because I even had you over before. We had a pool day. And you were like, what do you want me to bring? And I was like, I don't care. Just like any food. Like I'm grateful to have you bringing food whenever. And you were like, okay, I'll just like look in my pantry and throw something together. And I was like, okay, sure. And I was thinking, like, not that my pantry is bare, but, like, what the hell would I throw together from my pantry? And then you showed up with, like, gourmet, like, vegan cheese, parmesan, whatever, something, zucchini fritters.
Oh yeah, zucchini fries.
Or with like a special dipping sauce and like, and I was like, let me throw something together for my pantry real quick. And it was still, good stuff. And like, it's nice that you can just create, based off of like minimal resources at times.
Yeah, I enjoy cooking like that. I do that every day, honestly. When I cook at home, I just usually go to the store and it's like, okay, what do I not have, but I always try to make sure I have plenty of fresh vegetables, even though I have no idea what I'm going to do with it yet, because a lot of times I have no idea what I'm going to cook. So I just have my fresh vegetables. Of course, I eat plant-based most of the time. I always have beans. I always have, like grains, rice, different things like that. I always have pasta. I try to keep other stuff in the, in the freezer if I need a little extra vegetable or something like that. But I really like to create like that, because sometimes you don't think about how ingredients can go together until you start doing certain things, so that's why sometimes people are like, why don't you do a cooking class or, or show people what you're doing? I'm like, it's like a madhouse in here when I'm cooking. Because I'm like, let me go grab this or whatever. Because I'm just constantly thinking of more ways to elevate the flavor. Yeah.
And that's like similar whenever people are like, well, what kind of body work do you do? And I'm like, it's not Swedish. It's not like there's no one thing because there's so many, probably much like culinary arts. There's so many things that you've learned along the way to incorporate. And it's like, it's going to be different every time. This dish might need a little more of this and this other one might need a little more of that. And it's like the same with, approaches to healing. Like you might need a little more work from this person or like a little more stretching today from this other session, that kind of thing. So it's interesting how it's arts.
It's
healing
like that.
Arts, culinary arts.
It's like that question I always get. Well, what's your best dish? And I'm like, whatever I'm cooking is my best dish.
I thought of that, but I was like, no, that's not gonna be a good. That's Shiana says thing.
But it really is because I feel like most chefs, you're as good as your last dish you made. So if I had to come up with one thing, that kind of. I mean, what kind of range does that really show a person?
Right. Do you have a favorite dish that like is just your go-to to showcase your like the colorful skills and the all the things that if you were presenting to like a cooking show and they were like, okay, let's make this competition based on a lovely color palette for the dish. Like what comes to mind for creating something like that? Like your best of the best knowledge things with.
I'm trying to think because I really cook based off ingredients a lot of times. So if color was the thing, then I would be picking out every color thing I can think of. So, if I had to go off the top of my head, I'm thinking beets, just beets alone, you get that in 2 colors. Okay. You got radishes, they got watermelon radish, you got carrots, different colored carrots, I probably would make a salad, honestly, because, because it's the easiest way to get a lot of colors.
Yeah, and we feed ourselves off of the colors too, which I don't think people realize how much that plays a part in our healing. How do you feel about food as medicine?
Oh, I love the idea of food as medicine because it is medicine. Because part of the reason I decided I wanted to go plant-based was because I had a lot of allergy problems, especially when I moved to Texas because I lived in Waco, Texas, and apparently it's the worst place in the U.S. for a person with allergies.
Gotcha.
So at that time I was taking, I was doing nasal spray, different pills, all different kind of things. And then once I moved to Charlotte, when I moved back over this way, I was tired of it. I said, I don't want to be in a position where I had to keep taking something all the time. So I was like, I don't know what I saw, but I started taking bee pollen and then I cut dairy out of my diet. And then my allergies started to go away. And I think I was doing nettle tea. I was drinking nettle tea too.
I do nettle tea still now because it's good for a lot of other things too, like thyroid stuff, hair stuff.
Yes, it's got a lot of iron in it.
And one of my last guests, we were talking nettles too.
So, I really had to stop eating certain things, and I think I cut back on the meat then too. So I was only doing maybe fish sometimes. Another reason, because I was traveling a lot too for work. So when I traveled, I got to the point where I would cook in my room because eating out so much would make me sick. So I just really need to change my diet. So that really helped me health-wise. So that's something I want to continue to do.
Speaking of fish, what are your thoughts on the conspiracies around tilapia?
I believe the conspiracies about tilapia because I've seen videos of farm-raised fish or whatever, and I remember when we were in culinary school, I was one of the first fish that I learned how to fillet was a tilapia, which is a very ugly fish, by the way. But seeing just how they have them in those big, like, swimming pool things, and it's like, what exactly are they eating? But it's, to me, tilapia is no different than why would I eat, like, pork or, or beef or anything like that. If you don't know what has been fed, tilapia is the same thing when it's farm raised. So I used to eat tilapia until I knew better.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard both sides, and I'm like, how does a chef feel about tilapia? That makes sense.
Most people cook tilapia because it's cost effective.
Got it.
Not because if they had a choice, I think people would choose something else.
Now, you know how, we already discussed community things and how we are even in each other's like ecosystem of community. Now, what I've found in like the healer community, for me anyway, I don't know if other people feel the same way, but I don't feel like there's competition with other people in my industry, at least here. Like, I don't feel like I'm competing for your clients and you're not trying to take mine away. Like everybody eats, everybody can help, everybody can contribute. Do you feel like there's competition in the culinary community? Or do you have community within that space?
Since I've been back, honestly, there's only a couple chefs that I work with most of the time. So I hadn't really, that's one thing I need to work on, building more community with other chefs or whatever. I don't really think there's any competition. I feel like it's room for everybody, especially when it comes to food, because it's impossible for us all to cook for everyone at one time. So I haven't really seen myself as a competition. Now, when I was working in the corporate world, then I saw more competition there because, just the way things are structured, they just want, certain chefs just want to have the limelight, So I've seen that a lot, in that world. But outside of being in corporate, I hadn't really seen that. Most of the chefs I've always met, always very supportive. They don't have no problem helping you if you need help. Because I actually work with Chef Corey of Sister Season, and then I also work with Chef Larry Simmons too. So just having other chefs that you can work with really helps you because we can't all do everything by ourselves. Sometimes we need help, and it's good to have chefs that you can look to help you when you have gigs or if they have gigs, because to me being a chef is almost like being a musician, right? You make your money as the gigs come, and if you don't have any gigs, you're not making any money.
What advice could you give somebody who is interested in becoming a chef, like a personal chef, or private? Which one did you?
Private chef.
Private chef. Sorry, private chef.
I would say if this is something you want to get into, then you need to get serious about your craft and make sure that whatever it is that you're delivering food-wise, or, you need to be practicing, because one thing I feel like, especially since I've left the corporate world, I've made a conscious intention to make sure I cook even more because if you don't, then you kind of lose it or whatever a little bit. And that's how I felt when I started working in the corporate world. But just really start working on your craft, try and do recipes, looking at different trends for different things, learning how to plate things, that way when you do decide to kind of open yourself up to the world and start to, get gigs and different things like that, you'll be proud of what you put out because, I feel like as a chef, I can't speak for other chefs. I'm constantly critiquing myself. Even when I'm at the gig, I'm like, okay, I could have done this different, So it's like you always got to think of ways to adjust. And the more honestly, the more mistakes you make as a chef makes you a better chef. So if you're not making any, then you're not really learning or growing.
That sounds like some shit Shiana says.
And it's very similar in my, okay. I feel like when I talk my industries, I feel like, yes, healer, but also creative. Mm-hmm. Not to say like they can be together, mm-hmm. but it feels like there's still a separation in a lot of ways. Yeah. But when you mention like the making mistakes part, I think about that stuff with the creative stuff, like mm-hmm. even on the podcast, like mm-hmm. I might fuck up on here and it's like, whatever. Yeah. As long as I keep going, I can always refine. Mm-hmm. But when I think about the healer part of me, like you can't be making too many mistakes with that one because people are trusting you with their care. Mm-hmm. But so I feel like for you, it would be, if anything, like somebody said they had a food allergy kind of thing. Like that's the mistake you can make for that. Mm-hmm. But I know for me, like when I'm learning from other healers, it might be like maybe I'm watching a video or maybe I'm going to get a treatment from another practitioner that does this kind of modality. Mm-hmm. But for you, I'm thinking like another way for you to be exposed to options and inspiration is to go to restaurants. Yeah. But like, how do you feel about going to restaurants? Because this is what I hear from people that actually cook.
I will say my palate is probably my strongest sense that I have. Okay. So I'm not easily impressed by a lot of mm-hmm, things when it comes to food. So honestly, I have to be, if I'm looking for a food experience, then I already know where I'm going, but most of the time, if I'm just going out, just to, grab a bite to eat or hang out with friends, I don't really put that much emphasis on me trying to find something that I'm actually going to enjoy. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I feed. I'm just here for the vibe. Usually, let me make sure I, eat something before I leave. See? That way, if I'm out and I don't see anything I want, or for whatever reason I'm not satisfied with it, then I'm not starving, mm-hmm. But honestly, a lot of the restaurants, just in Columbia, and I don't want to offend anybody,
but you know what you're talking about too. So pop your shit.
Yeah. So it's not a lot of restaurants around here that I feel have good quality food. Mm-hmm. You met some places are nice looking, but at the end of the day, I want a good meal. Mm-hmm. I want to enjoy my food. So honestly, a lot of times when I want to eat good, I'll go to Charlotte. I'll go to Charleston, mm-hmm. of course, Greenville, places like that. That's close by where I can get me a good meal mm-hmm. in a nice vibe too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I remember having a conversation with one of my friends before because there was a restaurant that was opening here, and in my mind, like based off of the culture that was being shown, they were preparing the foods. Mm-hmm. I was like, that I'd be interested in seeing what they have to offer. Mm-hmm. And then I remember I know people talk about like all the hairdressers or all the hairstylists have the green ivy stuff. Oh yeah. So this restaurant had something like that. Like they had like the green ivy stuff, mm-hmm. whatever it's called, some plasticky, from Amazon, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I think it may have had flowers or something. Like it was a good Instagram photo picture corner or something like that. And then I was like, telling my friend, I was like, I had hopes for this place mm-hmm. because of what they seemed to be offering. Yeah. And then I saw that picture and I was like, maybe they don't have good food.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's like when you go to bigger cities and you see restaurants and you see how they're ran, and just the amount of people that are working, just the amount of attention to detail that is going on. Because to me, it's not, when you go to a restaurant, it's not just about the food, it's about the service too. So you want to feel like you're taken care of, you
Absolutely.
know. A lot of people ask me why I don't open a restaurant, because I know if I open one, I'm not going to have any time to myself anymore. Okay. Because then I've got to be constantly managing people all the time, you know.
What I'm hearing is you have a hard time delegating, ma'am.
I can delegate. I've delegated. I used to be a general manager, so I used to delegate a lot. But at the end of the day, people are going to be people, and if you don't follow up, it's just kind of hard to trust people that are going to do their job when you're not looking at them. But it's a lot of restaurants just missing the service part. They just think about, oh, you know, we're going to create this ambiance, you know, to invite you in. Yeah. Ooh, we want you to come in here. And then once you're there, that's the only thing they have. You know, it looks nice in here.
Very surface level.
Yeah. So I wish they would just put more effort into, okay, we're going to make somebody greet you at the door. You make sure that, you know, not just your server is coming to your table, that somebody else is coming to your table, to making sure that you're taken care of, you know, make sure that you're actually happy with the food that you have in front of you, because not everybody's going to say, hey, I don't like this, or, being willing to fix it if it's wrong, you know, because food service is always going to be waste. Somebody's going to drop something on the floor, something's been held too long, it's got to go in the trash. So why not fix it? Why not talk to your chef and edit the food and say, hey, this is a dish that keeps coming back all the time. Why are you still sending it out like this, you know? But there's no accountability when it comes to that part. So that's the part I feel like is missing from a lot of restaurants.
I agree. Would you entertain having a food truck?
I actually have thought about having not a truck, but a trailer.
Okay.
I say no truck because most food trucks are usually used, and you know, I'm just of the mind, if the truck doesn't move, then that means I can't work. But if I get a trailer, I can, if the truck that I'm pulling it with breaks down, I can rent a truck and pull it. Yeah. Okay.
So what does that look like then?
Honestly, I've been kind of working on the idea of doing vegan breakfast food. Because I feel like, well, plant-based.
There's not many things that I'm like, when you said that, I was like, what does that look like? What are those options?
Yeah, I was thinking more so of more plant-based, because I don't want to use any like substitutes, meat substitutes or any kind of substitute. So anything that is made will not come out of a store. Everything will be made. So, you know, not using just egg or anything like that. We'll be doing chickpea eggs, you know, or, you know, I can do, you know, still make pancakes, but make them vegan style. You know, I used to live in Florida and Texas. You know, I work with a lot of Hispanic people, so I love a breakfast taco. So I think breakfast tacos, you know, just different things like that, you know, because I feel like breakfast is a meal that honestly most plant-based people don't really eat breakfast a lot of times, because they're like, okay, if they eat something in the morning, like, you know, fruit doesn't take the body as much to digest. So a lot of people that eat plant-based eat fruit in the morning, or a smoothie or something like that. So I probably would do some smoothies of some kind. I love tea, so I probably do some different flavors of tea. I had an idea of doing dandelion tea in place of coffee.
Yeah, and dandelion tea I know is really good for the liver and some other stuff, but I do know that much. Yeah, a lot of like what I've discovered, you know, talking about conspiracy theories, what I've discovered in my more recent years are a lot of the things that were all around us growing up that are now labeled as like weeds and stuff are actually some of the best medicines out there that we can have. Like honeysuckle is another one, and you know everybody loves honeysuckles. Like, that's a childhood classic. But yeah, even those have a lot of healing properties.
I follow this lady that has a farm with her family, like in the middle of Georgia somewhere, and she did a post about goldenrod. And goldenrod is not outside now, but maybe like a month ago it was everywhere. And I mean, on the sides of highways. And I was talking to my mom. I was like, Mom, do you got some of this in the yard? And so my mom, she'll get out anywhere and, you know, pull something out the ground on the side of the road. So she went and got some for me. But it's just like those kind of things are everywhere. And, you know, I just learned about even back in the day before, you know, the pharmaceutical companies, you know, that a lot of people, their lawns were full of what we consider weeds.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the pharmacies, people would go and they would get those same plants from the pharmacy versus getting a pill or, you know, of some kind, you know. But the medicine's all around you, you know, and we just ignore it because we've been taught to ignore it. Yeah.
And to get rid of it.
Yeah. And even the Roundup and stuff poisons the ground, you know, the water.
Yep. Because I want to say mulleins, another one that grows everywhere.
Yeah.
It's really good for a lot of other things.
It's at the park here too. I've gotten some mullein from the park.
See? And you actually also have a green thumb. So do you feel like all of us should be growing our own fruits and vegetables with the way the world looks?
I do. I do think that everybody should have a garden of some kind. Because people think gardening is so hard, you know. And while it can't, if you decide to go like full blown, like in the ground, you know, it is kind of difficult because now you got to, you know, worry about pests and different things like that. But I just feel like knowing how to feed yourself is really important now. So if something happens, you should be able to have some seeds or something at your house, you know, to be like, okay, I'll grow my own food now. But, you know, with growing food, you learn a lot every time you grow. And even if you've grown the same thing every year, the weather's not going to be the same.
Right. Because I know we had a rough summer this one.
Yeah.
Well,
so
everybody did.
Yeah. So my garden took a beating this summer because my garden got full sun, you know, so it really took a beating. But just knowing how to feed yourself and just knowing how to grow things. And to me, it just gives you a better appreciation for food. Because now you get to see it grow and actually how long it takes to grow, you know, versus, you know, you could just go to the grocery store and pick it up, you know, even the quality. Like, my boyfriend always talks about, I had a lot of cucumbers this year. And he was like, it's crazy. He was like, it's crazy how this cucumber is still good. He's like, it's been on the counter and then you put it in the refrigerator. He's like, it's still crispy. It doesn't, he's like, this doesn't even taste the same as a cucumber out of the store. And it's just so crazy. People are eating stuff and they're not even tasting the real fruit or vegetable.
Well, I remember my mom said, and, you know, again, my mom's very British. And she grew up, and I'm sure this was also financial related on top of being in England, but they grew up eating cheese and tomato sandwiches or cheese and onion sandwiches. But even when I went over there, like visiting family, and they were making the sandwich and they were like putting the tomato on there, I have always hated tomatoes. And I was like, no, like I don't want to eat it. Don't try and force that on me. It's gross. I don't like them. And she was like, no, you really need to try this tomato. It's a garden tomato. It's completely different. And I was like, what do you mean garden tomato? This is before I even knew there were garden tomatoes and grocery store tomatoes. And I tried that and it actually had flavor. And I was like, wait a minute, this is
not the same.
This is not the same. And then
yep.
I never wanted a grocery store tomato after that because I was like, there's no point. It's just like, it tastes like texture. It doesn't have flavor. It just tastes like the texture it is.
Yeah. My grandma actually had a garden growing up. So I ate a lot of tomato sandwiches growing up. My mom gardened some too. She gardens a lot now. But I remember eating stuff out the garden. And even now, tomatoes, I don't care if you buy an heirloom tomato out of the grocery store. It still does not taste the same as a tomato that came off of a plant. And just thinking about, just the plant itself that is growing on, it's like you're getting the energy that this plant was taken from the environment, the sun, different things, so it's more living, you growing it than you getting it out of the grocery store.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that is a large part of what we should be having, more live things, like water even is a whole, try and get as live or water as alive as you can.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that healing. Have you been to the God's Acres Healing Springs in Blackville?
I've heard of it though.
There's one, so there's a Healing Springs closer somewhere in South Carolina, and I tried that one, and it tasted very minerally. Like, I feel like if you tested the water, it's got some fuckery in there. So I was like, I'd rather go. I'd rather drive an hour to Blackville and it's a nice drive anyway, but that is some of the best water I've ever had. I was like, I already know, like, this probably heals the world if they need it or that kind of thing. But it's from a
living spring.
So like the water is alive and we should have, I know people feel the ways about the animals and stuff, but like if you're incorporating more live things, water and then fruits and vegetables that are actually being tended to and cared for in a garden is a way different experience than the manufactured shit.
Yeah. Just with the animals too. Like eventually I will raise my own animals too. I don't have a problem with meat. I have a problem with how we treat meat. So if I could grow my own animals, and I think we wouldn't consume as much if we had to go and slaughter our own meat.
I absolutely would not be eating food. I would not be eating meat if that were the case.
Most people have no idea.
And I'd be vegan for life.
And I really think back then a lot of people did not eat as much meat as we do now because nobody's going to kill 3 chickens every day.
They all got names. we got storylines and narratives. No, I would absolutely be vegan.
Yeah.
See, this is what what is it? Ignorance is bliss. So if I have a farm, then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But no, I already know. Like I could, and then I'm a Capricorn. Like I couldn't be getting rid of the goats.
Oh no!
Like curry.
I want some goats.
No,
not to eat them though. I want the goat milk.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. And like growing up, whenever we first moved to the States, I was allergic to milk here, and I kept getting ear infections.
Oh yeah.
And it would go from one ear to the other, and I'd have a fever, and then it would go away, and I was on amoxicillin all the damn time. And then one of my mom's neighbors or parents' neighbors or something was like, try her on goat's milk. That is the only thing that fixed my ear infections. So then it's funny, like growing up later, and I've shared, like I had the sinus infections and stuff. And I was like, all the dairy stuff, but from a child, clearly, I had an issue with dairy then. So yeah, I'd be here for the goat's milk.
Yeah.
And now, are you somebody that makes your own almond milk too?
I have not gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
But I'm getting close.
Okay.
I've been buying what's Khalifa Farms. They have their organic one is the cleanest label I've seen. So it's just almonds, water, salt. That's the only thing that's in there.
How has the cost of food, like within, I guess even this year, how has that affected your business?
It hasn't really affected my business that much, honestly, because I think since COVID has ended and, people are kind of back to normal. The pandemic.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
The COVID's not over, but I think people are really looking for convenience now, so they don't really care how much the food costs. But I mean, just for me, just going to the grocery store, buying the supplies, I can see like how drastic of a difference it is now when you buying groceries. I feel bad for families where people have a lot of people in their family because that food, that money's not going as far as it used to anymore. So it's just really, really expensive.
So knowing what I know now about you clearly being able to raise the animals as well as plant the foods. So if I have a commune, are you gonna be on the compound with the commune situation with the cool. Glad
absolutely.
In case other people need to join us in the future.
Yeah, I want acres of land.
Perfect. I can contribute in lots of ways. I'm sure we could grow all kinds of things out there. I could see it now. All right, let me mark that one and then pin that one for later. And what is your medicine?
Oh, my medicine is definitely some trees. Okay. For sure. Yeah.
So plant medicine?
Yeah, plant medicine.
Here for it? Yeah, and I cannot wait. Whenever it happens, people will know. But for us to have a collaboration and infuse some delicious meals with some plants. Oh, I can see it. Yeah. I feel the vibes. Yeah. I feel like even those listening, they're like, yes. Yeah. Send the invite right now.
You're going to want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, you already painted a picture of what the ambiance is going to be like. I can provide the entertainment, or I'll contribute. Yeah, it'll be nice. I can see it. Okay. How can people get in touch with you to like book the things?
You can go to my website. It's Entice Me Spice Company, but it's Entice Me Spice Co. It's a tongue twister. So it's ENTICEMESPICECO.com. You go to private dining tab on there on my website. I also sell my own seasonings as well. So you'll find that on the website as well. Also follow me on Instagram at Entice Me Kitchen and at Entice Me Spice Co.
Yep, and I'll include that in the show notes too. And as always, if there's something I forgot, make sure you check the show notes because I'll put it in there too. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
It was overdue, but it happened as it needed to happen. So I'm sure you'll be on here again.
I had
sometime.
fun.
Yay. All right, I will catch you guys next time. Be sure to meditate and hydrate. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Who You Callin' Holistic. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. You can find me and all my services on Shiana.com. That's SHEANA.com.